I still want to know, how did you, from reading books and being curious about NLP, then started sharing a stage with Paul McKenna and Richard Bandler?
Okay, so there is a sort of a sequence there. I met Paul when he was a radio DJ at Capitol and I was doing voiceovers, and he used to come into the Mystic Trader bookshop where I worked. So we met as a couple of guys. I didn't know who he was, particularly, and we just got on, and became friendly, and sort of had nothing to do with work. So it was quite funny that I was also very good friends with Michael Breen, who he used to work at Changes. Mm-hmm. And so we'd become good friends. And I always feel bad to this day, I wasn't the one that introduced them. But I was already teaching. And when they started teaching together, I would come in sometimes and do some teaching with them. And then, like I say, around 1999, I'd kind of had it. The world, that was the time when it got really political. And my acting career was going well. And I just retired. I just thought, I'm not up for this. I'll still help people if I can. But it's not fun anymore. And I don't know, I wasn't, maybe I wimped out, maybe I was smart, but I dropped out. And Paul came over to the States a couple times because he was doing some infomercials, and we met up, and he was interested in the coaching that I was doing. And he did a couple of sessions with me, and it really, really helped him. Like, he was blown away, and he was like, we need to teach this. So he brought me back to London to teach, and we did, what did we call them? It was Coaching Success, I think we called them. We did a couple of big events, just he and I. And he was trying to get me to come back and do the NLP stuff, because Michael was moving on, and they needed somebody. I didn't want to do it. I kept pushing other people. I would say, have you tried this person? Have you tried this person? And Paul's very persuasive, and he finally convinced me to come over, and I found out later had to do just as much convincing to get Richard to let me, because I hadn't really met Richard, except I introduced Richard. So it was my one experience of Richard. The first time he came and spoke in the UK for Paul, and for whatever reason they asked me to introduce him. I to this day don't know why, but I did, and I wound up.
You American.
I know, and I wound up telling light bulb jokes as part of his introduction. And I remember, I think it really did go down like this. The payoff one was, how many mice does it take to screw in a light bulb? And the answer is 2, but don't ask me how they got in there. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Richard Bandler. So I think it was probably the strangest introduction he's ever gotten. But that was, we didn't know each other. I was in awe of him. Yeah. I'd learned a ton from him through books and audios, but I didn't really know him. So there was a sense of, being brought to meet the Godfather, and fortunately it was interesting. One of the things that I so respect about Richard is, after all this time, when he won me over, actually, not that it was his job to, but when I kind of decided, oh, you're all right. I walked into the sort of green room for the trainers, and he was signing certificates. Now, we'd have like 500-600 people on those trainings. Yeah. And I said to him, and I didn't mean to be rude, I said to him, you sign your own certificates? And he looked at me like, like he can, and said, I don't just sign them, I love them. and he was talking about, he literally puts energy into each signature, and I could see that, and I went, oh, well, you've been doing this 30 years. Oh, that's really cool. And so that's when I decided, politics be damned. If I can do this, I'm going to do this. And we had a great run. I mean, that was an amazing, amazing time. And, we overlapped a little bit there.